I'll show you how to make resin beach waves on a mirror. It's very simple and it looks really cool on a mirror. And you usually only need one layer, so it's a very fast process. I have an 8-inch circular mirror and I'm gonna start preparing it by putting tape all over the back. The tape will protect the resin drips from sticking to the back of the mirror. And I'm just using regular packing tape. You can use masking tape if you want. It doesn't matter too much, but I find that the packing tape is pretty good for getting the drips off easily. Now I'm pressing the tape down to make sure it's on there really snug. And then I'm gonna flip it over and trim the tape around the edges. I'm just adding a few extra pieces of tape to make that protected area a little bit larger. If you're kind of a messy person, you might want to do this too. It doesn't hurt to put more tape or to even just tape the entire back. I have some alcohol to clean off my mirror. I'm using ethanol, but you can always use isopropyl. You just want to make sure your mirror is really clean before you get started and that there's no fingerprints or greasy marks. I'm gonna set up my mirror by putting a plastic cup upside down into an old silicone mold. I'm using my leveler to make sure that the mirror is level. And it looks a little bit uneven on this side, so I have a little resin drip and I'm gonna put it underneath the cup to level it out. And it looks like that worked, so I'm gonna give it one more wipe and then get started with the resin. I have a plastic measuring cup and I'm only gonna need about 3 ounces of resin. I'm using top coating resin. It's KS Resin Liquid Stone Elite. And first I'm pouring about 1.5 ounces of hardener. And then I'm pouring 1.5 ounces of resin. It's a 1-to-1 tabletop resin. Make sure that you are using a top coating resin and not a casting resin. I'm going to mix my resin for about 2 to 3 minutes. I've been mixing for a few minutes and my resin looks like it's ready. So first thing I'm gonna do is pour a little bit into another cup, and you'll only need less than an ounce, maybe 0.5 ounces in that second cup. And in the first cup, I'm gonna add some alcohol ink. This is Ranger alcohol ink in Glacier Blue, and it's gonna add that blue color. I'm mixing the ink with the resin, and it's looking a little lighter than I want it. So I'm gonna add a little bit more ink until I get the color that I want. And I'll keep stirring until everything is fully mixed. Now I'm gonna add pigment to my other cup of resin. This is just resin pigment paste in titanium white, and it's very thick. I'm just gonna grab like a teaspoonful and then mix it into my resin. And now my resin is ready, but I actually had to move to a different table because the sun was moving directly onto my mirror. So sorry about that, but now I'm moved into a room with no windows and I'm gonna be pouring here. I had to level my mirror one more time before I got started. The first thing I'm gonna do is pour the blue resin all over the top half of the mirror. Now I'm using my popsicle stick to spread out my resin. I just want to make sure the resin is even, and it's okay to let the resin drip over the top edges. I'm also going to use the popsicle stick to create a little wave at the bottom of this resin pool. At this step, you just want to make sure you don't get any resin on the empty part of the mirror, because that resin will stick there. And if you do, just get a paper towel with alcohol and wipe it off, and it should come off clean while the resin is still uncured. After I spread out my waves, I'm gonna let the resin sit for about 25 minutes. And that's because the pot life of this resin is about 60 minutes, and I want the resin to get closer to the end of the pot life. And the resin will be in a state that's a little bit thicker and more stable and easier to make nice, beautiful cells. It's been about 25 minutes and you can see all the bubbles have risen to the top. I'm gonna grab my heat gun and go over this layer of resin to pop all the bubbles. This is a Wagner heat gun and it's great for resin ocean cells. All the bubbles are gone now, so I'm gonna get my white resin and pour a very thin line right where that wave ends on the blue resin. Now I'm gonna get my heat gun to start making the cells. I'm moving the white part of the resin into the blue part in an upwards motion from left to right. You can see I'm going kind of slow so that the white goes into the blue and makes a little bit of a thin white layer. And that's where you're gonna get your cells, where there's a thin white layer. And you just want to make sure you don't stay in one spot for too long, because you might end up burning the resin, and that's really bad for your health and for your piece. So go slow and steady, but don't stay in one spot for too long. I'm done making the wave, and you can see there's a few cells that already came up. Sometimes it can take a minute or two for the cells to open up a bit more, so I'm going to let it sit for about a few minutes and then come back to it. It's been a few minutes and you can see some of the cells opened up a bit. I'm going to use a butane torch to get a little bit more cell action. So this is a very strong torch, just be very careful. You want to hold it about 6 inches away, a little bit further, and then just move it in an upwards motion where there's a thin layer of white resin. And you can see the cells that are forming. You really only need a few swipes. And just be aware that you can end up burning your resin, so be very careful about how close you are to your resin. Because if you do end up torching your resin, it will smell really bad and those fumes are bad for you. Now that we have nice cells, I'm gonna spread the cells out with my heat gun. I'm just moving the cells in an upward motion to make the cells bigger. Now I'm all finished and I'm gonna let it cure overnight. It's been 24 hours and my resin is fully cured and the mirror is pretty much finished. Can you see how cool the cells look? Everything turned out really nice and I only needed one layer, which is what is so great about these mirrors. And I'm gonna finish this off by taking the tape off of the back. And the tape should come right off along with the resin drips. If you have any sticky residue on the back from the tape, you can always wipe it down with alcohol and it will come right off. And here's the finished piece again. The beach waves really look cool when you try different colors too. So I hope you have fun. Thank you for watching. Hope this helps and see you again later. Bye.